You know what's terrifying? You know exactly what you should be doing. You've known for months, maybe years. Wake up earlier, start the business, learn the skill, save the money, stop wasting time. You know, you really do. And yet, day after day, month after month, year after year, you still don't move. Why? Why do intelligent people watch their own potential slowly die while doing absolutely nothing to stop it? What if the answer has nothing to do with laziness? What if you've spent years trying to become successful using the exact mindset that's keeping you poor? Because the strange thing about mindsets is they don't feel like beliefs. They feel like reality. And after decades of research into psychology, behavior, and wealth, something disturbing keeps appearing. People with almost identical opportunities end up living completely different lives. Not because one works harder, not because one is smarter, but because they're playing completely different games inside their heads. And most people never realize which game they're playing, because prisons are dangerous that way. From the inside, they usually look normal. Have you ever noticed how another person's success can feel strangely painful? A friend gets promoted, someone your age buys a house, an old classmate starts a business, and before you're even aware of it, something tightens. Why them? Why not me? Life starts feeling like a competition with limited seats, as if someone else winning somehow stole something from you. Researchers discovered something disturbing about this. Scarcity doesn't just affect money, it hijacks attention itself. When your mind is constantly scanning for danger, quietly running calculations on survival, your brain enters something called tunneling. Long-term thinking disappears completely. Everything becomes urgent. You're no longer building a future. You're simply putting out fires. And that's the tragedy, because the mindset working hardest to protect you is quietly destroying your future at the same time. Then there are people who experience something even stranger. They finally get the raise. For a few days, life feels different. But then comes a slightly better phone, a jacket they bought because they had a terrible Tuesday, a handful of subscriptions they don't even remember signing up for. And somehow, despite earning more than ever, they still feel broke. Here's what most people never understand. They aren't trading money for objects. They're trading hours of their life they will never get back for a dopamine hit that evaporates before they even get home. Wealthy people ask a completely different question. Not, what can I buy? But, what can I own that earns while I sleep? Wealth isn't built by spending less. It's built by thinking differently about what money is actually for. And that shift in thinking is a language most people never learn. Then comes perhaps the most painful trap of all. You try something new, a side project, a business idea, a skill you've always wanted, and it fails. Not quietly, awkwardly, and almost immediately, a voice appears. I'm just not built for this. People like me don't succeed at things like this. Psychologists call this a fixed mindset, but a better name might be the verdict reflex. Because your brain stops treating failure as information and starts treating it as a life sentence. You become so terrified of looking foolish that you stop playing to win and start playing entirely to avoid embarrassment. Eventually, you stop applying, stop trying, stop risking. And without realizing it, you build a smaller and smaller life. Not because you lacked ability, but because protecting your ego became more important than growing. Failure was never the thing destroying you. The fear of looking foolish was. And then there are the people who are always busy, always planning, always watching videos, always reading books, always consuming courses, always researching, always preparing. But somehow, nothing changes. Years pass, dreams stay exactly where they were left. This is the information mindset, the dangerous belief that learning and progress are the same thing. They aren't. Knowledge feels productive, which makes it dangerously addictive. Because consuming information gives you the emotional reward of progress without ever requiring the discomfort of action. Eventually, preparation becomes procrastination wearing expensive clothes. And that's terrifying. Because the world doesn't reward the most prepared. It rewards the ones who actually moved. And then there is a quieter trap. Something goes wrong, and immediately the explanations arrive. The economy, the timing, the family that didn't believe in you, the boss who never saw your potential, the circumstances you were born into. And sometimes those things really do matter. Life can be brutally, terribly unfair. But when explanations become permanent identities, power quietly disappears. Because if everything is always someone else's fault, nothing is ever your responsibility. And responsibility is heavy. But responsibility is also the only place where power lives. Successful people ask a different question, not, why is this happening to me? But, what can I do next? That tiny question has changed more lives than most people realize. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right moment. More confidence, better timing, more preparation. But here's what's actually happening underneath. You aren't afraid of failing. You're afraid of being seen failing. And so you research more, prepare more, wait more, until waiting itself becomes the habit. Meanwhile, someone with less talent, less knowledge, and less preparation than you simply started. And the world rewarded them for it. Because the world doesn't reward perfect, it rewards finished. But perhaps the rarest mindset of all belongs to people who understand something deeply uncomfortable. Life rewards patience. Not immediately, not fairly, not quickly, but eventually. For 10 years, nobody notices them. Their friends think they're obsessed. Their family thinks they're boring. They read books nobody applauds, learn skills nobody notices. They wake up one day and find an email that says, due to restructuring, your position has been eliminated. And instead of collapsing, they realize they saw this coming. Because they spent years building something that didn't depend on anyone else's approval to survive. They plant trees they won't sit under today, And for a very long time, their lives look completely ordinary. Until one day, everything compounds, and everyone calls them lucky. Carefully ignoring the decade that manufactured the luck, because compounding is strange like that. For a long, invisible stretch of time, it looks like nothing is happening. And then suddenly, it looks like it was always inevitable. Maybe that's the biggest difference. Poor people aren't poor because they're stupid. Successful people aren't superheroes. Most people simply inherit invisible stories from parents who were afraid, from friends who stayed small, from a world that mistakes busyness for progress and consumption for achievement. And those stories become beliefs. Beliefs become decisions. Decisions become destinies. Which means the most expensive thing you own may not be your house, or your car, or your missed investments. It might be a thought you inherited so long ago you never once stopped to ask if it was actually true. And perhaps that's why these invisible prisons are so dangerous, because the walls feel completely real. The locks feel completely solid. The ceiling feels fixed and permanent, until one day you look a little closer and realize something that changes everything. The door was never locked. You were.